board gamers, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now in today's video we're going to be looking at a Kickstarter expansion to a Vital Lacerda game which comes to Kickstarter on Thursday the 15th of July. The link will be in the description below, and of course that expansion is to the base game of On Mars by Vital Lacerda, published by Eagle Gryphon Games, and the expansion is called the Alien Invasion expansion. It is an expansion which contains 4 new, let's call them chapters for On Mars, and one of them is the one that we're going to be looking at today because it's a brand new solo mode for On Mars. I know, a brand new solo mode. Now let me tell you, since I got this in the last kind of few days, I've played this solo mode 4 times on the bounce. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the expansion, what you get in the expansion, and also then we'll delve into the differences on the brand new solo mode for On Mars that comes as part of the Alien Invasion expansion. It's not going to be a full review because I've already reviewed On Mars, but I will say off the bat I'm really impressed with this brand new solo mode. So what is the Alien Invasion expansion to On Mars? It's called Alien Invasion, a somewhat cooperative expansion, and that's really what it is. Effectively, it's 4 new ways of playing On Mars. There is one which is kind of one versus many, and then there's a couple of cooperative scenarios, and there's also the brand new solo chapter as well. So let's, in terms of the chapters themselves, chapter 1 is called Invasion, and that's 1 versus all for 3 to 5 players. Then chapter 2 is called Outbreak, and that's co-op for 2 to 4 players. Chapter 3 is called Blackout, and that's co-op again for 2 to 4 players. And Chapter 4 is called Monolith, which is solo for a solo player. And that's exactly what I've been playing. So Randall over at Eagle Gryphon just sent me the assets for the solo game. Although obviously as a solo player there are 2 co-op scenarios in there, or 2 co-op chapters in there. And surely as a solo player I will be able to play them as well. I'm kind of looking forward to maybe dual handing On Mars at some point, because what this expansion does, more than the expansion that was in the base game, is it actually allows you to play the game of On Mars as a solo player. Now, if you played the solo version that came with the base game of On Mars, you'll know that there was an AI in this solo game, and my concerns were that this AI seemed very, very arbitrary. You had to make lots of decisions for this AI in terms of where it was going to place things, etc. And you had to do it in terms of what was best for the AI. Now, in a game that's as sprawling and as deep and as crunchy as On Mars, with lots of different interconnected decisions, it's a Vital Lacerda game, probably amongst his heaviest games as well, is I had a lot to think about when I was trying to play the solo, doing my own moves without having to control and think about this AI in the base game. So what they've done in the new solo mode that comes with the Alien Invasion expansion is they've got rid of the AI absolutely completely. You are only controlling your own player. And let me tell you, it makes for a far, far better experience. You're not worrying about the micro rules about when the AI moves from the orbit to the planet and what you have to do and where you have to place tiles. You're just trying to complete your own objectives. And the objectives are, there are some that you will work, as you will know if you played the base game, your kind of personal objectives that you will try and do, but there are also some brand new objectives as well, and I'll talk about those in a wee while. There are 5 new objectives deck, and you'll pick cards out of each of those, and there's also a sabotage deck as well, because bad things can happen to you. The great thing about this is that completing missions on the board, as you did with the base game, would trigger end game conditions. No. That doesn't happen in the new solo mode, in this new solo mode. You see, the game will last 15 rounds. That's right. You have 15 major actions, and as many executive actions as you can take, but 15 major actions to complete a minimum of 4 out of your 5 objectives. You will then score yourself based on your performance post that. Of course, you can still score yourself if you don't complete your objectives. Now, I've played this game 4 times on the bounce, and I've completed 3 objectives at most. So let me tell you, that 15 round timer really starts to kick in, and it really moves the game away from being this really fiddly thing that it was in the base game to a really well designed and well structured optimization puzzle. So bear in mind that this is a prototype copy, and I was sent kind of some the only asset. So bear in mind this is a prototype copy and none of the assets I'm using are by far and away the finished version. Now, when I spoke about gold cards and how this plays different to how it played in the base game of On Mars, as you know, you kind of did this thing where you were going around trying to play the game, and then eventually you would kind of rack up points and become, I don't know, a Martian or a potato or whatever it was. And it was, you know, it kind of linked into how the main game played and tried to replicate another player, and that was potentially a bit of its downfall. This is a true solo and solitaire experience. You see, as you set up the game as you would for a 4-player game, with just a couple of minor amendments as if it was a 2-player, but mostly it's set up as if it was a standard game. And then the first thing that you're going to notice is there are these 4 new objective decks. Yes. Objective deck 1, which is your upgrade cards, and therefore you have to get a particular upgrade card to complete that. Objective deck 2, which is your kind of world contract cards as well, your Earth contract cards, and again you have to fulfill a particular contract card to complete that. Objective 3, which is your tech card. And what that does is it says that you must have moved a tech tile to a particular part on the tech tree. Objective deck 4, which is the scientist card. So again, you must have completed a particular scientist card. And then finally, we have objective deck 5, which is your kind of research tokens, etc. And you must have collected a certain one of those. And what you will do is, in the easiest setting, is you will look at these and you will select 3 cards from the objective deck, so one from each deck if you like, but you get to choose 3 and then you randomly draw 2. If you want to make it a little bit more difficult, you can randomly draw as many as you want, and that's how you will scale the difficulty there. And then what you have to do is, that means you will have 5 objective cards, so 1 from each of those decks, and you have to complete by the end of your 15th turn 4 of those objectives to actually win the game. Of course, you're going to be racking up points, etc., as you do in the normal game of On Mars, but this really gives you a different scope on it, different to that original base game, because you're allowed to just work your way across this map. And I've played it completely different to how I played the original solo in the original base game of On Mars, and I much prefer this way of doing it. So far, so good. We know that there are new objective decks in the solo game, and that really changes the game up a little bit. But what triggers these objective decks? What other new assets do we get? Well, as I mentioned, the game takes place over 15 rounds in the new solo game, and you're going to get a board overlay to put over where the progress cubes go on the main board. Now, this is printed on paper, of course. In the actual expansion, when it comes out, it's of course going to be on card there. And you can see that there are 15 rounds on there, and you're going to move your marker up there each and every round. So that's right, you get a maximum of 15 major actions you can take in the solo game of On Mars to complete 4 of your 5 objectives. But why? What else is on there? Well, you may notice some little alien skulls on there as well, and you can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those in the 15 rounds, and that's because there's also another deck of cards, and these are the Sabotage cards that you're going to get here. Now, at the beginning of the game, what you're going to do is you're going to deal 2 of these out, and that's part of the setup. So you get 5 new objective cards, and you deal out 2 of these Sabotage cards as well. And they're either A or B Sabotage cards. No matter what they are, and I'll explain how that works in a second, the effect on there when these are triggered is always negative in one way or another. You see, when your timer or your marker hits one of these little alien skulls on here, then what's going to happen is you're going to flip over a new Sabotage card. So I already have a B and an A card here, just flipped up another one, and that's a B card. I'm going to put that at the end of there, but because there are 2 B cards now, what I do is I take a cube, and it's just any progress cube from any player piece I'm not using, and I put it on one of the 2 empty spaces, and you can see there are 2 empty spaces on each of these cards down at the bottom of the leftmost card that equals the card that I've just brought out. Now, every time you hit one of these skulls, you're going to turn over another card, and potentially you're going to put that on the same card. It could be an A card, depending on what comes out. When you trigger a skull and you then go here and you've already got 2 of these progress cubes marking these cards, you then resolve the cards from left to right in order of priority. And as I say, these are generally negative effects when you resolve them. So on this one, bot destroyed. If this card had got 2 progress cubes on it and I've moved on to an alien skull, it would trigger this card, and it says, return one of your bots from the Martian surface to your supply. what if you've only got one bot? That's a really, really kind of nasty thing to happen to you. When you play that card, you'll discard it, and of course, you will then on the next skull, flip over on the next alien skull, flip over another card, add your progress cubes on there, and that will then potentially trigger more bad things to happen to you. And that's a good way that the game has of absolutely keeping you in check. You know, for me, irrespective of whether even if I wasn't using the sabotage cards, which have had a detrimental effect, of course, when they've been triggered, I probably would still struggle to complete 4 out of the 5 objectives because, of course, people out there are far better than this game that I have. But it's a really neat kind of way to do that, a good kind of churn system. There are enough cards in there to make it interesting, and it feels dynamic as it happens, as it goes through there. So you're going to do that over 15 rounds. You're going to try and complete your objectives. You're going to try and rack up your points as you normally would during a normal game of On Mars. Complete your objectives, try and mitigate what can happen in that sabotage deck. Get to the point where by the end of round 15 you have completed at least 4 of your 5 objectives. So to officially win the game, as I say, you've got to complete 4 of your 5 objectives and then tot up your points as you would normally in a game of On Mars, and that will be points for obviously where you're on the tech tree, or maybe completing your scientist cards and your upgrade cards, etc. And you would add all those points together, and then you would get an overall score. There are some mitigators though, so even if you don't complete 4 out of your 5 objectives, you can still, of course, tot up your score, and it will give, in true Lacerda style, give you a ranking of where you are. However, you will get minus points if you haven't completed a minimum of 4 out of the 5 objectives. So if you haven't achieved any, you can lose 50 points straight away. If you've only achieved 1, minus 25, 2, minus 15, 3, 0, achieved 4, you will get plus 25, and if you've achieved all 5, you will get plus 50 points. So achieving those objectives is really important. Then, as I say, you will kind of rack up everything that you do. Each mission card that you achieve is actually worth 10 points as well. And then once you've racked all these points up, you can go from, if you get less than 50 points, you can get from being lost in space through to plus, between 50 and 75 is passenger, 75 to 100 is an explorer, 100 to 125 is a pioneer, 125 to 150 is a planet tamer, and 150 plus is a star child. I have got 75 bang on as my maximum score so far, and I say that's with achieving 3 objectives, so I haven't done particularly well, but the game provides such an exciting challenge. Having this timer is really, really good, and I think that it kind of excels in many ways that the original base game solo version of On Mars doesn't. Is it takes away all the ambiguity and all the worry and the fiddliness of dealing with that AI that you had to deal with. You're not dealing with an AI here. You're concentrating on your own objectives. You have this sabotage deck, and it really allows you to play the game of On Mars. On Mars is a difficult game to learn. If you've never learned to Lacerda, then it's a fairly crunchy game to learn. It was in fact my first Lacerda that I got, and obviously I played it quite a lot, and it took me quite a while to get the rules down. And I think most of that was because I played it solo most of the time, using the base game solo, and I was just trying to keep up with too many things. And as I mentioned already, the kind of insane fiddliness of the original base game. By stripping that away, this brings it down to the pure On Mars experience. And as a solo player, the first time I played this new version of the solo version of On Mars, it felt like I was playing On Mars properly. For the first time, I didn't have to worry about anything. There's enough going on to keep me absolutely interested here. I will, between turns, I will literally study the board for 5 minutes, thinking, mapping out my moves, because I'm not trying to think about what the AI is going to do. I want to maximise my turns. I want to maximise my enjoyment of this game. It allows me to truly enjoy On Mars. I have played On Mars with other people, and it certainly played better then than it did with the base solo game. I think that this is, because I don't play that often with other people, I think this is now one of my favourite Lacerda solo modes, because it's not overly complex. It actually makes me happy to get On Mars back on the table. I've got no qualms in playing this 2 or 3 times on the bounce. The game is going to take, depending on your thought space, maybe 60, 90 minutes, maybe more. If you're anything like me, you'll set it up, you'll go and play it for 20 or 30 minutes, go away and think about it. And that's what I've been doing. And it's a great puzzle to think about. I'm starting to think about all the interconnecting moves, about what I have to do to achieve this particular objective, how many moves ahead I've got to plan to do that. And by stripping away our AI, it absolutely allows me to concentrate on the pure game of On Mars. Okay, so final thoughts on the new solo in the Alien Invasion expansion to On Mars. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to anybody if you watched this video that I really think this creates a far better, smoother, slicker, more enjoyable solo experience than the original base game solo mode of On Mars. So much so that I don't think I'm going to go back to that Lacerda bot and that AI in the original On Mars. I don't feel any need to do that because this completely gives me exactly what I'm looking for from a solo mode. I think the initial solo mode was well intentioned. It was overly complex and maybe too complicated for a game which is already complex enough. This, by stripping away that, getting rid of any extraneous fat, allows you to have that pure On Mars experience. It's certainly my preferred way of playing it. I can't think that with the base game I would have played 4 or 5, maybe 6 solo games on the bounce. I certainly played maybe 10 times over a longish period, over maybe 8 weeks when I did my review. But for this, I played 4 games on the bounce. I'm going to leave this set up because I want to go back in and play it again because I'm enjoying it that much. I think what it won't do, if you tried On Mars and you don't like the game of On Mars, it's not going to convert you to On Mars because it is the core game. It's stripped out any of the fluff and any of the bloat that was there in the solo game, and it provides you with that pure On Mars experience. So if you never liked On Mars and you thought On Mars was too fiddly, then it's not going to convert you. But as a solo gamer, as a solo gamer, or even a pure solo gamer, if you're a pure solo gamer and you got On Mars, and you're thinking that, you kind of wish you liked the solo version in the base game more, then getting the Alien Invasion expansion is an absolute must. I'm looking forward to seeing what the final assets look like in this. Obviously, one of the chapters, the first chapter, it's a bit for one versus many, so I will probably never play that particular chapter, but I will give the co-op chapters a go as and when I get the actual physical copy of Alien Invasion for On Mars. I will give those co-op chapters a go because I will have played this a number of times. I think this will be now my preferred way of playing On Mars. I'm going to look forward to getting On Mars back on the table. At last, this beautiful game has the solo mode that it truly deserves. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey through the Alien Invasion expansion for On Mars, the solo mode, the brand new solo mode that's for it. It is absolutely fantastic. It's converted me back into liking On Mars, back into not fearing putting On Mars on the table. It provides me with a genuinely enjoyable experience, and I can't wait to play it again. Make sure you check out the link to the Kickstarter down in the comments below. It's on Kickstarter as you'll be watching this video. That run started on the 15th of July, and I think Eagle Griffin are allowing you to buy lots of different Lacerda games on the Kickstarter as well. And as you saw mine and Luke Hector's video on the Broken Meeple channel, where we spent a good couple of hours discussing all of the solo Vita Lacerda games and their solo modes, then you will know that Vita Lacerda is one of my favourite designers. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey. Check out the link. Go and check out the Kickstarter if you think that you really want to like On Mars and you weren't quite there with the original solo mode. This absolutely answers every question that you've had. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos, and one final thought. If you can't find anybody else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.